Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of Philip D. Ledford, Navy veteran, dog lover, patriot, and husband to Helene, his wife of 41 years. I was blessed to be Phil's next-door neighbor in Tucson for the last 20 years. Having lost my father at the age of 12, Phil became a father figure to me, and I loved him deeply. Phil was born in Ohio and joined the Navy in 1963 at the age of 17, requiring his father to approve his enlistment. After 4 years serving as a boilerman and traveling the world, he transitioned to civilian life. After working in Ohio as a commercial refrigerator technician, Phil, Helene, and their beloved English setter named Molly moved to Tucson. Phil and his best friend and brother-in-law Mike would go on adventures in the desert and mountains, exploring old mines, gold prospecting, and hiking the beautiful landscapes of Arizona. After Molly passed away, Phil and Helene couldn't imagine bringing another dog into their broken hearts for a while. Slowly, my golden retriever Penelope started to melt his heart, and soon they were spending their days together. Phil and Helene cared for Penelope when I was deployed to Afghanistan, then drove across the country to help me move when I got orders to Alabama. Phil came out to babysit Penelope and even drove her all the way back to Tucson to be at home for a while with Helene. Phil volunteered to be a foster for the local Golden Retriever rescue organizations. He took this responsibility seriously, caring for many Goldens coming out of difficult circumstances. One Golden, Rudy, had cancer, and Phil agreed to care for him until he passed. Rudy was deathly afraid of thunder, but Phil discovered that Rudy's fears were cured if he was riding in a car. Every time the monsoon storms came, Phil would load Rudy up, even borrowing Mike's van so Rudy could enter more easily, and drive him around so he wasn't afraid during the storm, even if the storm lasted all night. No complaints, no questions asked. When I returned home to Tucson, we cut a hole in the wall between the two houses, and we had doggy doors, food bowls, toys and treats in both places. Penelope happily lived in both of her homes again, roaming freely. What a life. What love. Phil was with me when Penelope passed in 2014. Within a few weeks, Phil's best friend Mike went to be with the Lord after battling Agent Orange-caused cancer for years. It was a rough spring for Phil, losing his best guy friend and furry friend so quickly. Despite our grief, we soon welcomed a rescue Golden named Boomer into our lives and hearts. Boomer was a 10-month-old energetic handful, and Phil got to work with his training, coaching, and love. Phil was a patriot who loved his country, God, and valued a hard day's work. He was a skilled tradesman who was always eager to pull out his tools and try to fix literally anything that broke in the house or the car. Those of us who knew him best and loved him call him our favorite curmudgeon. He was stubborn and opinionated, but would literally give you the shirt off his back or the last dollar in his wallet. He used to scold me on my lax discipline with the dogs. Boomer would get rambunctious with me and not listen, but was perfectly well behaved with Phil. I realized finally that Boomer saw me as the littermate and Phil as the pet parent. In November 2015, Phil was diagnosed with head and neck cancer. The last year and a half, he navigated an extremely difficult journey. He channeled his stubbornness towards his fight against cancer and refused to give up or get down. His deep character traits of selflessness, faith, love, courage, and humility were tested and purified on this walk. He was a hero, an example to all of extreme pain, suffering, adversity, and eventually the end of his physical life. In mid-April, the cancer came back with a vengeance and rapidly spread. The pain was unbearable at times, and it was so difficult for us to watch him suffer. 2 weeks ago yesterday, he took a turn for the worse. I flew home from D.C. to be with him. After a long night, Helene, Boomer, and I were by his side, praying he would be willing to let go and be received into God's holy embrace. He was unconscious for over 24 hours, but in that prayer, he scrunched his eyes closed twice, took his last breath, and went to be with the Lord, finally free of all suffering and fully restored. We could learn a lot from Phil Ledford. He did not live a complicated life and found pure joy in simple and beautiful things. A walk with a beloved dog, exploring with his best friend Mike, watching football with his adored bride Helene, tinkering with the furnace or his Jeep, a walk and casual dinner at our local favorite restaurant, Papa Loco's, driving me to the airport or to events with constituents, taking care of and protecting those whom he loved. He didn't see glory, fame, or riches, but humility, integrity, loyalty, and service. Phil Ledford was a good man with a large heart and a selfless spirit. I truly could not have served in my calling in uniform or in Congress without his love and support. He directed us not to have a memorial service or a funeral, but he never said anything about a speech on the floor of the House of Representatives. It is the least I could do to honor his impact on my life and all those blessed who know him and love him, human and furry. We love you and we miss you, Phil. As the song says, go rest high on that mountain, son. Your work on earth is done. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.